Japanese toolbox. The one defining characteristic about this design is the lid. See how it's fitted under the sides? And then it's locked in place with a wedge. Very simple, ingenious. As soon as I first learned about this concept, I knew I wanted to build one. I love how no hardware is required and how you can make one complicated or simple, large or small. Years ago I built my first one, then I built another one, and today I thought we will make yet a different one and do a little exploration into what a Japanese style toolbox is all about. Proportions. Traditional Japanese toolbox, Western style box. In very general terms, that is. So we have a lower, longer, and higher box here. Apparently the style carpenter box was used in Japan not just for storing tools but transporting them. However, when we refer to the name Japanese toolbox, it doesn't necessarily have to be a box for tools. We're referring to the design, this very specific lid mechanism, and often the general proportions and style. So what about this one? Technically a Japanese style toolbox, however it's not long and thin. It is quite chunky and more Western in its proportions. However, we do have the fitted-in lid, a wedge to close it, the inset sides which become handles to hold the box with. So for this new box here, I want to go classic design, however I want to scale it down for pencils. So it needs to be long and it can be quite small because pencils don't take up much room. In other words, it's a perfect scrap project. Here I've got some maple. They're all slightly different widths, so let's bring them down to size. I really like projects that you can make just with hand tools. Kind of gives you a chance to use your hand plane. There are also some burn marks on this wood from resawing, so let's take care of that. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. The lid will sit inset. Now I need to cut the pieces that are going here, and they are the same width as this piece. That's right, they need to be cut down. Those are going to be sitting inset. And I'd forgotten that the short sides actually sit on top of the bottom, whereas the long sides sit on the outside. And then here's offcut. So I was thinking you could just kind of glue the offcut on here, because then it will mimic that, and I think that would look kind of nice. The handles, or sides in this case, are quite tiny. In fact, this whole project is quite small. Now to contrast the maple, I'm going to use a cherry piece for the top cap pieces. It looks similar in color right now, but once it gets some finish and ages a bit, it will be quite different in color from the maple. here are my pieces right now. So here we have just the basic box. We have 3 equally long pieces. This one could be thinner if we wanted, or deeper or wider. These need to be the same size. They're the same length. And then we have the sides where I have glued on little holders. And I have also marked out on this piece all of the drill holes that I'm gonna do ahead of time. This is to connect to here, and these 4 ones at the bottom is to connect to the bottom. Okay, so we have the box part. Now we want to attach the top end pieces. And I'm trying to figure out if I have enough room here for a pencil to be dropped in. Seems just right. Okay, so we have the box and we have the capped sides in place. Now we need the lid, and it needs to be just long enough to fit under both pieces once secured, but not too long so you can't get it in or out. I find about a 1/4 inch leeway on each side is good. You don't really need more than that. We also need the pieces that will connect with the lid so it can rest on the sides. I'm using cherry for that as well. Now this piece here will be cut in half at angle, so half will be secured to the lid and the other half will be the removable wedge. Now I actually want the wedge to be a bit longer and bigger. And that's because in the past I made the wedge the same size, the same width as the box, and over time as the wood kind of moves a bit, the wedge gets pushed and pushed and pushed, and you kind of need a bigger wedge as time moves on. So if I start out with a bigger wedge, we shouldn't have that problem. So I'm taping where the lid will sit underneath the caps just to give me like a visual. That way I know where to secure the pieces on the lid. Now that's a pretty good fit. And for reference, here's a piece of the same cherry, finished and aged, so the top pieces will get a bit darker over time. And for finish, I'm just going to use our tung oil and beeswax polish, which I think is the absolute perfect finish for a box like this. So when learning about these toolboxes, one thing I found interesting was that in Japan, the style of toolbox wasn't made for storing tools in a shop. It was built to carry them to the job site. So you have carpenters, joiners, and temple builders. They needed a way to move their hand tools safely and efficiently. And this box was designed exactly for that, with this wedge system that keeps it locked in place really well during transport. And that's why it is long and narrow, to fit saws, planes, chisels, marking gauges, and they laid out flat so they don't bang into each other during transport. Apparently it's often made from kiri wood, which is lightweight and helps protect blades from rust in humid weather. I've never worked with kiri wood, but would be interesting. On site, the box often serves more than one purpose. It can be a bench, a step stool, or a makeshift work surface when needed. And that versatility was important when working in tight or improvised spaces. Now, most craftsmen built their own and customized the tools they used. Some added compartments, and others kept it simple. So, which one is your favorite? Toolbox, small general box, or pen box? I must say, I like the proportions of the pen box, and also the wood. Let me know if you have any questions, any thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.